Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And I just have to tell you, there is something not right happening right now in South Africa. I can't kind of put my fingers on it, but let me tell you what I'm getting from people. Okay. Now, I'm going to first of all explain how the lockdown is really hurting small businesses in South Africa, largely white businesses. It's killing what's left of the economy. I've said this so many times now. I got an email from a fellow, and I won't say who it is, I'll just call him S. He says, "Thank you for your channel. Appreciate you getting the truth out there. I am the owner of an audio-visual company here in Cape Town who has not earned a single cent or had an event since mid-March 2020. While I can understand why my industry has suffered under this pandemic, I fail to see why we are drawing this process out longer and harder than what is needed." He goes on to say, "I attached a YouTube video from the acting DA leader, John Steenhuisen. You may well have seen it." Yes, I have. "It gives you a good, true idea of what is happening in South Africa and how people are struggling. He brings an astounding point that we are quickly heading towards a lockdown that is equal, if not stronger, than countries like China and Italy's lockdown. He also states that South Africa's top medical advisor, Professor Karim, has stated that the current lockdown will have very little further effect, and there is currently no timeline as to when our lockdown will be reduced further. The mind boggles." He concludes by saying, "It honestly saddens me that I've worked my fingers to the bone for the last 12 years to bring my business successfully to where it is today. Like I said, I get the 3 weeks lockdown. I was even content with a further 2 weeks lockdown. I understand that my industry, events, conferencing, entertainment and hospitality, will be one of the last to reopen. But the longer this process is drawn out, the more apparent it becomes that I won't be working again this year. Please continue your work in making the world aware of what is happening here in South Africa, as a large portion of South Africa has no voice, and that is because of censorship in South Africa." Now, what we need to look at is what's going on behind the scenes in the ANC. And I'll get to that in a second. That's a separate article which we'll have a look at. And this is actually an article in one of the mainstream papers, the South African. And it's very, very concerning. As I say, I can't quite put my finger on it yet, but just now I put up a video of the army deployed into white suburbs. Why? This is a lockdown because of people breaching the lockdown. The breaches are happening in townships. They're happening in black areas. There is so much video footage confirming this. And yet the police are targeting single white people who might be walking along a beach or something like that, arresting them and making them pay a huge fine. You know, there is something very, very wrong going on right now. And yes, I'm talking about it's almost genocidal what's happening. Let me just add to what I'm talking about. Apparently, now this is unconfirmed, but I've heard about the Chinese training blacks in the Potchefstroom area. This person says, "Why is the Chinese training 80,000 blacks in the Potchefstroom area, arming them with new AK-47s? That's a really, if this is true, and I'm not saying it's true, it's unsubstantiated, but if this is true, it's a very, very disturbing development, because this country, South Africa, can't even afford to pay for its state-owned enterprises. And here, if this is true, they're paying billions of rands to build up what is effectively a huge army. Why? Why during a lockdown? Shouldn't those troops also be subject to the lockdown? The lockdown is basically a curfew on people from leaving their homes. This is not only unconstitutional, but it's a very, very serious issue that's happening in South Africa, especially for the middle class people, and in particular for the white people. Now, just to answer that question about what's going on with the ANC, I'm going to read to you what this newspaper has to say. And again, this is very disturbing, because while the ANC clowns are going around and doing their fighting with each other and stuff like that, you've got a country that is going into economic turmoil. It's not going to recover. South Africa will never recover from what the ANC have done during this lockdown, which was flawed from the very start. They have single-handedly destroyed the rest of South Africa's economy. The ANC have destroyed the country. And that's why a separate state in the Cape needs to be born out of this. That's the silver lining. Once this ANC government is gone, that's what the minority groups have to do. They need to work together, set up their own state in the Western Cape and further up, wherever the borders eventually are. But if they can do that, then they can rebuild from the start and keep it so that this situation can never arise again in their state. And you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about corrupt ANC officials. Now, let's get to this article. It's headed, "A Coup or the End of the ANC. Ramaphosa may need to clear these rumors." Now, if it's going to be a coup, you wonder why, if it's true, those 80,000 blacks are being trained with AK-47s by the Chinese. By the Chinese. Anyway, let's read the article. "We've had our ups and downs during the democratic era, but these times will truly prove to be the strangest of them all. In this time of widespread disease, hard lockdowns and political infighting, Cyril Ramaphosa has an unenviable task of being president. And as he's learned over the past few weeks, it's impossible to please everyone." Now, I've got to say that I think that Cyril Ramaphosa is the most devious man I have ever come across in my whole life. He makes these glowing statements, and I think behind the scenes there's a very different agenda going on. I wouldn't trust this man as far as I could throw him, and I know he's big and fat, so that kind of gives you the picture. "Ramaphosa's authority has come in for some serious questioning since the beginning of Level 4 restrictions. Critics are upset with the amount of power held by the National Command Center, a group effectively given the authority to establish lockdown laws and how they are governed. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma leads the NCC, and as the person who went head-to-head with Cyril to replace Jacob Zuma. Now remember, she is Jacob Zuma's ex-wife. The struggle for power has seemingly continued. The noises coming from inside the ANC camp suggest that all is not well behind closed doors, and the blood has been bad for months. It's a perfect storm of conspiracy, rumor, and political intrigue. The murmurs of discontent are being heard through cracks in the wall. Never mind keeping the country together during the global health crisis. The ANC and its leadership are having all on with keeping themselves in line. At the heart of this issue is Cyril Ramaphosa and the true extent of the power he holds as head of state. He may have won Nasrec in 2017, but his victory was fraught with compromise. The so-called Zuma faction of the party, which saw RET evangelist Ace Magashula nab the all-important Secretary General role, occupy key positions within the ANC top six. Since taking charge of the country in February 2018, Ramaphosa has been accused of failing to act on his policy promises. He prioritized job creation, but the employment rate worsened. He vowed to kickstart the economy, and we eventually ended up in the recession. But to what extent can these failures be attributed to others? The whispers from inside the National Executive Committee suggest that the president has been left frustrated by a lack of cooperation from senior colleagues, and according to one former party MP, the eventual goal is to push Cyril into an early resignation or boot him out of the door completely. Fakey mentor has previously shared evidence with the state capture inquiry and posted this to social media on Saturday. This wouldn't be the first time Ramaphosa has been the alleged target of an inside coup either. And Fakey Mentor said, "Don't say I didn't tell you. They are busy unseating Ramaphosa, holding virtual meetings to escalate his stepping down. We must pray for Ramaphosa in South Africa hard and fast." Well, I've got another angle on this. It's time that those groups that aren't working together, you know the groups I'm talking about, they need to start working together. And when the ANC collapses, that's a signal to just set up your own borders and just keep that country safe and rebuild from start, and let these stupid friggin' idiots do what they like up in the north, you know. And people who live in areas like Gauteng, you know, you've got to really think about your future if the shit hits the fan. Because, as I said, I've just put up a video where you can see the police milling around in white suburbs in Pretoria. Why? No, sorry, not the police, the army milling around in white suburbs in Pretoria. Why? Aren't they supposed to be supporting the police in making sure that the lockdown happens? They're not doing their job. The white population is being observant to the rules, because they know if they put a foot out the door, they're going to get arrested like that. But the black population, they're acting as if there's no lockdown. They're just milling around, doing what they like. No army, no police to actually arrest them. There's something very weird going on here, and it's beyond weird. It's very disturbing. Anyway, let's go back to the story. Claim 2, the collapse of the ANC. We're talking big picture in the extreme sense here. Select media reports have claimed that President Ramaphosa is trying to consolidate power by completely destroying the ANC, rendering his opponents toothless. Chouani's EFF leader shared his views on the matter last week when he said, "Some senior ANC leaders have accused President Cyril Ramaphosa of working with external parties to collapse the governing party and replace it with a centre-right coalition led by him after the 2024 general elections." These claims resurfaced in the past week after initially being made in December. Sunday Independent reported that stakeholders, including the Oppenheimers and Ruperts, want to elevate Ramaphosa above the ANC so that if the party lost support, he could emerge as the undisputed leader of a centre-right coalition of opposition parties. The agreement would apparently exclude the EFF. Now, what have Oppenheimer and Rupert got to do with shaping South Africa's future? I know that they're multi-billionaires, but they shouldn't be getting involved in politics, especially when you've got a president who's pushing for black economic empowerment, black transformation. What's going to change? A leopard doesn't change its spots. So I think the idea of Ramaphosa being a leader in the future of some different party is just completely incongruous. I don't get it. Anyway, let's continue. Claim 3, shuffling the cabinet. Even at a time like this, the potential of a cabinet reshuffle is not completely off the table. In a week which has seen Tito Mboweni consider his position as finance minister live on Twitter, the agitators weren't far behind in suggesting the party's stalwarts should be dismissed anyway. Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina said, this is on Twitter, "My imaginary wish is that the NEC should have put Tito on place like they do with us, or alternatively ask the president to replace him with Masondo to move the country forward." You know, South Africa is not a country, it's a disaster area. Anyway, let's just conclude this video. We've already seen Ramaphosa make an enforced change during lockdown. When Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams got herself suspended for breaching Level 5 regulations, Jackson Mthembu was asked to step in as communications minister on a temporary basis. Now, my question regarding Stella is, did she ever get arrested? Has she now got a criminal record? Clearly, she hasn't, because the ANC cadres are above the law. That's the truth of the matter. Anyway, Stella wasn't the only cabinet member to misbehave over the past 6 weeks or so. Becky Cele and Fikile Mbalula have also had a legal case to answer to since the end of March. Should Ramaphosa feel he is losing control of a runaway faction in his party, a rumoured reshuffle could be the last move in his armoury. So, there is clearly something happening within the ANC. And my major concern as someone who's an observer and who lives in Australia, where I'm safe, but my subscribers and my many friends who watch my videos are not safe if they live in South Africa. The issue I'm coming back to is, if it's true, and I know the Chinese are training police apparently, but not according to this rumor, they're training 80,000 blacks to learn how to use AK-47s in some kind of an army, new army. What the hell is going on? There is something very, very devious going on in South Africa. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe. Bye for now.